the Civilian Climate Corps for Jobs and Justice Act. People said then it was impossible. And to that, we said, watch us work. We knew an American Climate Corps wasn't impossible because our country has done this before. What we needed was, because we knew that we have done this before. Apologies. We knew that we've done this before. And what we needed, though, was the political will. It was the power of young people that have made today possible. This is why I am especially encouraged that President Biden is reviving the ideas that inspired our bill, which President Franklin Delano Roosevelt first put forward in 1933 in the creation of the original Civilian Conservation Corps. The CCC, as it was known then, was revolutionary. In the wake of the Great Depression, the CCC put over 3 million young people to work, created 711 new state parks, and drastically improved our nation's public lands. This very park that we are in today is the result of the original Civilian Conservation Corps. Today, over 90 years later, the American Climate Corps will follow in these footsteps and go beyond by giving young Americans a chance to take on the climate crisis while training for the careers of tomorrow. Just like a century ago, the Climate Corps is part of a vision affirming that our environmental and economic future are intertwined. So let's invest in both. I truly believe that the young people who joined this first American Climate Corps cohort are and will continue to become profoundly influential leaders in the United States. They will be a part of confronting the climate crisis while building a just economy that works for all of us.
It was built 100 years ago. It's clearly failing.
If you are a young person interested in learning the skills to be part of our emerging climate resilience and clean energy workforce, or if you know someone who is, visit climatecorps.gov now and apply today.
Right away, please.
I applaud President Biden for taking action to create the American Climate Corps, and I look forward to continuing our work in Congress to ensure the growth and success of our climate agenda. Thank you all so very much.
Hey, you go, girl. Terrible fucking music. Now I see why. It's a nice headset. Forgot his speech. Who is in charge of the music here? Absolutely fucking terrible. They should be smoking weed. What else did you forget? Get a good picture of that.
please welcome Sanaya Kelly.
Hello.
Hey.
My name is Zanaya Kelly. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, as the middle child of a family of 7. I grew up in a neighborhood where there weren't many grocery stores that had healthy food options nearby. There were times where liquor stores doubled as grocery stores. But in elementary school, I learned the importance of having access to healthy food options. And my mom and I started a backyard garden. I was hooked. From our little backyard oasis, I could see the impact that fresh fruits and vegetables had on my family's health. The high school I attended focused on aviation. Between learning how to fly planes and build engines, I also learned how flying and different forms of transit contributed to climate pollution. For me, transportation was personal. Apart from lacking healthy food options, my entire city lacked reliable transportation. Coming from a big family, cars were expensive, so I had to rely on public transit. A 25-minute car ride to school could easily be a 2-hour bus ride. One winter in 10th grade, I got second-degree frostbite on all of my toes because I had to walk for miles in the snow when the bus didn't show up. These experiences inspired me to combine my passions for improving both the environment and public transit systems as an AmeriCorps member. After graduating from Michigan State University last May, I now proudly serve in the Michigan Healthy Climate Corps. I serve at Transportation Riders United. TRUE is a nonprofit organization dedicated to reducing pollution by improving Detroit's and the surrounding region's public transit system. Thanks to President Biden, I'm so excited to be a part of the inaugural cohort of the American Climate Corps.
What are you gonna do?
For young environmentalists like me, it means so much to know that we have a president who understands the importance of climate change, clean energy, and climate justice.
We're gonna put
Ladies
India
and
and
gentlemen,
China in jail?
I'm now honored to introduce to you the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Let's fucking go, Joe, baby! Woo! Look at that strut! This is what we've been waiting for, Daddy. Man, he's so fucking cool. Where'd he get those glasses? Somebody sent me a jacket like that.
Hello, hello, hello!
Oh, the pin. I'm loving the
Thank
pin
you,
there.
Zanaya, for sharing your story that embodies the spirit of Earth Day. On this day, 54 years ago, with literally toxic rivers burning, air filled with pollution, millions of Americans from every age and background rallied together to stand for our environment and for future generations. I got to know Senator Gaylord Nelson, from Wisconsin when I got to the Senate. And he organized the first Earth Day. I later introduced the first climate bill in the United States Senate, and all these years later, as president, I was able to sign into law the Inflation Reduction Act, the most significant investment ever anywhere in the history of the world, and we're just getting started. Earth Day pushed the country forward, leading to Environmental Protection Agency, and we're fortunate enough to have with us EPA Administrator Michael Regan here. Where are you, Michael? Stand up. Get up.
Stand up, Mike.
I stole them from Carolina. We're not letting them go back.
Fucking thief.
And we're joined by our great Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland. Deb, stand up. First
Get up.
Native American ever to serve in a cabinet.
Because
And
usually they serve
AmeriCorps
in
CEO
casinos.
Michael Smith. Michael, where are you? Hey. Joined by members of the Congress, including Ed Markey of Massachusetts, who, by the way, thought this was an important idea a long time ago and talked about dealing with the Climate Corps. One needed one. Ed, we owe you a lot, pal. We owe you a lot. And Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, who understands what beautiful territory looks like up in Vermont and has done everything in his power to protect it. Bernie, you're the best. And Representative Ocasio-Cortez of New York, you know, I learned a long time ago, listen to that lady. Listen to that lady. We're going to talk more about another part of the world, too, real quickly.
Yeah?
Look, joined by all of your advocates and community leaders, this is a good day. It's fitting to be here in Prince William Forest Park. On March 31, 1933, during the Great Depression, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt created the Climate Conservation Corps, which is talked about a little bit, to put Americans to work to conserve our country's natural resources. Thousands of young Americans from the Civilian Conservation Corps built this park, providing jobs, recreation, hope, and healing at the time. We know today we face another kind of existential threat. It requires equally bold and clear action. As president, I've seen the devastating toll of climate firsthand. Since I've been president, I've flown over all the major fires and the thousands upon thousands of acres that have burned flat by wildfires. More acres than the entire state of Maryland combined.
What about the border?
I met with families whose homes are wiped off the map by devastating hurricanes, floods, and storms. Last year was Earth Day's hottest day on record. And over the last 2 years, natural disasters and extreme weather in America have caused $270 billion in damages. And the impacts we're seeing, decades in the making,
spent in
because of
Ukraine.
inaction, are only going to get worse, more frequent, ferocious, and costly. But since Kamala and I took office, we've been acting, and today I'm proud to announce 2 major steps forward. First, energy costs are among the biggest costs for families to budget, particularly poor and middle-income families.
Yeah.
In fact, low-income families can spend up to 30% of their paychecks on their energy bills.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. To reduce family energy costs for folks with low and moderate incomes today, the Environmental Protection Agency will invest $7 billion from our Inflation Reduction Act in a new program called Solar for All. It will award grants, 60 grants across the country to states, territories, tribal governments, municipalities, and nonprofits to develop programs that enable low-income and disadvantaged communities to benefit from residential solar power. And it's a big deal. This new Solar for All program means that 900,000 households, 900,000, will have solar on the rooftops for the first time and soon. Millions of families will save over $400 a year in utility bills, and that's $350 million nationwide. My dad said it matters what's there at the end of the paycheck. But
What about the rest of us?
Have anything left. It means we'll cut more than 5 million metric tons of carbon pollution annually. And folks, Solar for All will give us more breathing room and cleaner breathing room. It's going to also create 200,000 good-paying and union jobs over the 5 years in communities that need it most, fence-line communities. You know, as I always say, I think about climate. When I think about it, I think not only about health and safety, but I think about jobs. And that brings me to my second announcement. Last fall, I talked about a historic new program that my administration was launching with the help of my colleagues on my right here, called the American Climate Corps. As I said, and I'm not being solicitous, Ed Markey talked about that long before. It's patterned after the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps. Like them, it brings out the best in young people to do what's best for America. And we'll put tens of thousands of young people to work at the forefront of our climate resilience and energy future, clean energy future. Today, I'm proud to announce that Americans across the country can now apply to become the first members of the American Climate Corps. We're recruiting for over 2,000 positions in 36 states to start with, in Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, with many on the way. Just go to Climate Corps, as mentioned already, climatecorps.gov to apply. You'll get paid to fight climate change, learning how to install those solar panels, fight wildfires, rebuild wetlands, weatherize homes, and so much more that's going to protect the environment and build a clean energy economy. To ensure a pathway to good union jobs and careers, you'll have access to free apprenticeship training through a new partnership we're announcing today with the North American Building Trade Unions. And as you may remember, when I announced in 2020, I initially didn't announce my climate position until I talked to the unions. Because unions were all, they thought climate cost them jobs.
Yeah, you wanted to make sure you had their vote.
IBW stepped up, and they all stepped up, and now our strongest support comes from unions. When you finish your service, you finish your term of service, you'll also be eligible for a streamlined path to federal government jobs related to climate and clean energy. We're also announcing a new collaboration with Bloomberg Philanthropies that puts American Climate Corps members in energy communities like former coal mining and communities, power plant communities that have powered our nation but have been fence line communities and hurt very badly for generations. Today's announcement builds upon an unprecedented historic action we've already taken to tackle the climate crisis, deliver environmental justice, and build a clean energy future. Just look at the last few weeks alone. To ensure clean energy, we issued new standards for chemical plants that emit toxic pollution. Now it's ending. And because of the Clean Air Act, we're going to reduce the number of people at risk for cancer in fence-line communities who have been smothered for decades by pollution by 96%, according to studies. By the way, parenthetically, my state of Delaware, which everybody thinks is a wealthy state, I live in a place called Claymont, Delaware. It's in that arc that goes up into Philadelphia, into Pennsylvania, and to the Delaware River.
One of those places.
More energy plants, more oil refineries than anywhere, including Houston, Texas. And I lived in just literally, the school I went to was literally a quarter mile from that border. And the prevailing winds were southeast, where we lived. So there was never any incentive for the Pennsylvanians to move to do something, but it affected Delaware. And we had the highest cancer rate in the 1970s of any nation, any state in the nation. And guess what? A lot of us, from me included, ended up with bronchial asthma and many other diseases. Fence-line communities are the ones we have to help first because they've been taking the brunt of all of this. To ensure clean drinking water, we issued the first ever national drinking water standard that will protect people from exposure to harmful substances known as forever chemicals. And after 30 years of inadequate protections, we finally are going to put a ban on asbestos, which we know causes cancer.
Finally. All right. Joe! Woo!
It's all part of a plan to reassert America's climate leadership. We rejoined the Paris Agreement and sparked a domestic clean energy manufacturing boom, providing incentives for 80,000 farmers to implement climate-smart agricultural practice. So plant what absorbs carbon from the air and pay them for doing it. We've quadrupled the number of electric vehicles sold, and 11,000 dealerships have now signed up to sell more. We're modernizing infrastructure with better roads and highways, energy grids, and more, so they can withstand and recover from extreme weather. Already underway, we're replacing every single lead pipe in America so everyone can turn on a faucet, home or at school, and drink clean water that doesn't contain lead. We're also reducing flood risk for communities, improving drought resilience, and conserving 41 million acres of most precious and sacred lands and water. I committed that I'm going to try to take of all non-developed land and waters, we're going to take 30% of it by 2030 and make sure it is conserved, period. We're well on our way.
Look at that fucking poor.
We've already attracted nearly $700 billion in private sector investments, in advanced manufacturing and clean energy, creating tens of thousands of jobs here in America. And all across the board, we're lifting up communities and workers too often left out in urban, rural, suburban, tribal communities all across the country. But folks, despite the overwhelming devastation in red and blue states, there's still those who deny climate is in crisis. Our MAGA Republican friends don't seem to think it's in crisis. They actually want to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, which provides the funding for a vast majority of these projects, and roll back clean air, protections for clean air and clean water. And I'm not going to go into it now, but I'm not making it up. It's real. Just listen to what they say. Anyone in or out of government who willfully denies the impacts of climate change is condemning the American people to a very dangerous future, and the world, I might add.
It's just there's one thing about it. As long as China and India are going to keep doing what they're doing, it doesn't really matter what we do here because nothing's going to stop what they're doing.
They want to take us backwards, sideline our workers, let China and others lead the race for clean energy. I'm determined, absolutely determined, that we move forward. We move forward. Let me close with this. In 1933, and it was referenced by the Congress lady, that when Roosevelt outlined the Civilian Conservation Corps, he said, quote, and I'm quoting, "More important than the material gains will be the moral and spiritual value of such work." He always put it in the context that went beyond just what the immediate need was. I'd say the same holds true for what we're doing here today. It has a moral imperative. And I've never been more optimistic about America's future. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And there's nothing beyond our capacity. We work together. So happy Earth Day, folks. And God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. We're going to get this done, I promise you, come hell or high water. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Come on. Guys, let's get this done, okay? All right. God bless you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Great job.
That hair. God, that AOC hair just smells so good. Look at that bald spot. They're about to go. Ah! The double point! Let's go, Joe! I was hoping he was talking to himself, but people started gathering around him so it would look like he was talking to them.